and you are therefore by nature consolidatee. When you go public, even if you can be bought at some point of time, the purpose, the fundamental meaning of the project is to consolidate the others, to grow and in an open-ended way. So it's a totally different mindset. And I'm not judging anything. I'm just saying that we have had a phase of sophistication of capitalism, boosted by low interest rates. Interest rates are now stabilizing at different levels. And we need to take the best of both worlds. I see in the tech sector in continental Europe an amazing number of technology companies that are mature and that have been maturing for the past 12 years and not ready to go public. And we have a pipeline for 25 and 26, which is amazing.
But these amazing, mature and maturing technology companies very often will get snapped up from either private equity or tech companies and tech titans, which primarily, let's be brutally honest, still tend to be American or international, get snapped up before they get to the main exchanges.
That's life. That's true. No, but that's true. That's true. I'm not.
That's a problem for Europe, Stefan.
That's a problem for Europe, but that's a problem that's more upstream than capital markets, is whether who owns whom and who works for whom. I mean, as long as we believe that we can be happy slaves working for U.S. pensioners, and having U.S. pensioners owning European companies rather than European pensioners owning European companies, that you are touching a more fundamental question, is for how long we will be happy with the resignated happy slavery. I mean, it's similar to whether you feel comfortable operating a F-35 fighting aircraft, where every morning for the plane to take off, you need to request a code from the U.S. I mean, it's comfortable, but it doesn't make you very sovereign. So what you're pointing out is the fact that unless Europeans unleash the massive amount of savings that exist in this part of the planet, 13 to 18% of disposable income is owned by households and in form of savings. Unless we find a way to channel that to fund European companies, we are in a situation which is very weak and very risky to have the players you identify who come from the other side of the water, with different interests, and one may suggest maybe sometimes different values, as we observe for a few weeks. And then the question is how we can build in Europe more strategic autonomy with stronger players. We do our part by building a strong pan-European market infrastructure, but I think the purpose, the role for every commercial industrial organization in Europe is to become as quickly as possible much stronger, because if you don't get strong, you will become slaves.
Stefan, quick question, quick answer, please, because we're running out of time. Political risk has scuppered a lot of IPOs last year, has really poured cold water over hopes that last year was going to be the year of listings. Everyone's hoping for 2025. There's so much geopolitical and political risk around. Is it going to be pushed out to 2026?
I'm very confident the other way around. I think most of European risk in Europe are going to be clarified. Put aside the very complex Ukraine situation, where I don't know whether the output will be better than the current situation. But the German political risk is going to evaporate in a few months' time. The French political risk is stabilizing. There is no Italian political risk. The Spanish economy is recovering extremely well. And I'm just referring to the four largest economies. So when you add on the top of that the massive number of companies that are ready to go public, and the fact that there is an increasing flow of global money and U.S. money towards U.S. cheap valuations, I'm super confident.
Stefan, always great to chat with you. Stefan Bougenin, the CEO of Euronext.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Right, let us move on. Airbus has delivered on its 2024 guidance in what it called a testing year for the company, posting a 6% annual increase in full-year consolidated revenues to just over 69 billion euros, whilst incurring a 1.3 billion euro hit from its space program. The plane maker is targeting around 820 commercial aircraft deliveries this year, up from 766 last year. We're going to speak to Guillaume Faury, who is the CEO of Airbus. Tune in for that interview coming up later today, 10:15 GMT.
And still coming up on the show, Mercedes could be in for a bumpy ride as the automaker plans cost cuts after a sales slump. We'll bring you more after this short break.
Today's Forex Update is sponsored by Interactive Brokers. 150 markets, 33 countries, 27 currencies. Today's Forex Update was sponsored by Interactive Brokers. Trade worldwide from a single unified platform.
In addition to hedge funds and registered advisors, Interactive Brokers also serves individual investors. We give you all the tools and technology we build for our institutional clients for free. Let Interactive Brokers assist you with your market goals. The best informed investors choose Interactive Brokers.
If you're watching CNBC, it's because you want to get an edge. You want to get ahead. It's our job to deliver that. My ambition is just to be the best that we can possibly be. More often than not, I kind of forget that the cameras are there, but when there's really a burning question, I'm thinking about what my mom would want to hear. I'm thinking about some of the investors I know who are watching. Those are the same questions we have. People always ask me what I want to do next, and I always think they're a little crazy. This is what I want to do. It's the best job you could possibly have.
In the age of digital disruption, get fresh business perspectives on the fast-changing world of tech, innovation and startups from one place. cnbc.com/technology.
Welcome back. It was called Das Finale. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz faced his main rival, the CDU leader Friedrich Merz, in a final televised debate ahead of the country's general election on Sunday. The two candidates sparred over the economy, migration, and security, with Merz saying he will only sign a coalition agreement that promised a major reform in migration policy. The latest polls have put Merz's center-right party in the lead, while Scholz and his Social Democrats are trailing behind. In his closing arguments, Scholz said he was confident voters would back his party.
I go by what you said at the beginning and what has already been discussed here. Many people are very undecided. I'm convinced that this time there will be something that has rarely happened to this extent in previous elections, namely that some people will go to the election, into the polling booth, and only then decide who and which party to vote for. And I believe that in the end, many will vote for the SPD and give me a new mandate to lead the next government.
Meanwhile, the CDU leader Friedrich Merz said his focus was on the key issues that the country is facing.
I am absolutely certain of one thing, regardless of who will form the next federal government and how it will be composed. We have to solve two major problems in this country over the next 4 years. That is migration and it is the economy. And if we don't solve these two problems, then you and we and all democratic parties in the political centre will not be facing a mere change of government in the 2029 federal elections. Rather, we will slide into right-wing populism for good. And I am standing here to avoid exactly that. And that is why the answer is very clear. I will only sign a coalition agreement that includes a turnaround in migration and a turnaround on the economy.
And for more on Germany's election frontrunner, check out our profile of Friedrich Merz on CNBC.com, and do not miss our German election coverage live from Berlin next Monday. That's kicking off at 6 a.m. GMT.
Okay, Mercedes-Benz has said it's taking steps to boost its competitiveness after full-year group sales fell 4.5% and earnings in its car division came in 40% lower on the year. Let's get to Annetta on this story. Annetta, problems in China, well flagged. Problems where elsewhere?
Yes, exactly. I mean, they have problems in China, especially in the luxury segment. So sales fell more than 14% in that luxury segment in China. And also Europe is doing very slow. So overall, one can probably argue, at least analysts are doing that their strategy to come up with super designed electrified vehicles who don't look at all like a Mercedes-Benz didn't work out. So what they're doing now is to come up with 10 or 11 new models until 2027 who look more like a combustion engine model. And they are also having a now flexible approach, strategic flexibility, they call it. So what does it mean? It means that they will sell combustion engines as much as clients want, and the focus shifts away from pure electrified vehicles. They firmly keep on sitting in the luxury segment while saying that they are banking to revive sales with a new middle-class model, which is about to hit the market. So you see, it's a difficult market environment, but one thing is clear, we are no longer in an environment where luxury is faring well all the time, and that is clear as well for Ola Källenius and his team. So I think what spooked investors today as well is the cutting of the dividend. At the same time, they're announcing a 5 billion euro share buy program, which of course still needs to be approved by the AGM, but highly likely. So the company is going through a transformation phase. The shares had actually quite a good start to the year. Year to date, they were up some 13%. Now in pre-market trading, it looks that they are actually lower, roughly 2.5% to 3% on the back of that poor data set. And as well, the rather sort of sobering outlook that 2025 will also be a year of transformation and a year of much lower margins.
All right, thank you very much indeed for that, Annetta. Let us move on. Renault has posted a 3.5% increase in full-year operating profit, beating market expectations. The French car maker also beat on the top line, driven by the release of new compact and hybrid cars. Well, that read, Charlotte, pretty much answered my question. What are the French doing that the Germans aren't?
Well, that's a good question, but looking at Renault, it's really been a success story recently, and one of the reasons you could say, they are not exposed to China. You just heard Annetta talking about the slowdown in China is impacting Mercedes. Well, at Renault, they don't have that exposure. They're also not exposed to the US and potential tariffs coming in, but they are exposed, of course, to slower demand in Europe. But as you were saying, they had new launches, 10 new launches in 2024 that allow them to ride this slowdown and can have demand coming in. One of them was the R5 Electric, which is a new version of an old car that they made a long time ago. There's a small city car that's been very successful, and one of the reasons that was this launch was important is that it's a cheap EV under 23,000 euros, and that is the key there. Try to attract the buyers with cheaper EVs, and they said they actually announced this morning that they will develop a Dacia EV in 16 months that will sell under 18,000 euros. That's really the push that they're trying to do to make some of those EVs cheaper, and that Dacia brand that is like a low-cost brand for them where they have some SUVs that are very successful will help them kind of get some of that as well. They have 7 new launches coming into 2025, so it's been going well. Now they had some difficulties. They talk about some uncertainty in 25, especially due to new CO2 emissions coming into play, and Luca De Meo, the CEO of Renault Group, was one of the executives traveling to Brussels recently to meet Ursula von der Leyen to ask for some flexibility on the new targets coming into play. So we have to wait and see what he has to say on this. For 2024, of course, as you were saying, group operating margin was above the guidance they had given at 7.6%. Now they mentioned that net income reached 2.8 billion euros, but they had a negative impact from Nissan. It's 2 billion euros related to capital loss on Nissan shares disposal. That will be another story that we'll be watching this year. Of course, they are a key shareholder in Nissan, who was in talks with Honda potentially for a merger. These talks collapsed. Of course, Renault is keeping an eye on this. They don't want to make a loss on that stake that they have in Nissan, so they're a key player in this. Other things that would be interesting to talk about around Renault is that they're growing in markets outside of Europe, whether it's South Korea, India and Latin America. In just the past few days, they announced a deal with Geely from China to develop some cars in EVs and hybrid in Brazil. So they have a lot of things in the making into 25 to develop outside of Europe as well. The overall strong results, the share price reflecting this success for Renault, and they announced this dividend up 19%
Charlotte,
at 2.20 euros.
You said many interesting things, but you had me at cheap EVs. Europe has bemoaned Chinese EVs. They're cheap, they're undercutting us, they've got lower cost of production. Renault is succeeding because it can make cheap EVs that compete with the Chinese. That's huge.
And that is been one of their strengths, really, that, they are a key player here. Again, that R5, Renault 5, that is a very well-known model in France that they've relaunched in electric. That has been extremely successful in their new launch here in the fourth quarter of the year. It's been one of the top sellers here in the key market in France. And that is one that has been doing very well. So that's really been playing in their favor, this.
Really, really interesting. Absolutely fascinated to speak to Mr. De Meo as well. So you will be speaking to Luca De Meo. That's coming up in around about 1 hour and a half's time.
And we're only about 3 minutes away from the start of the equity trading session here in Europe. We're expecting a positive start to the session. Take a look at this. European futures indicating a rise of around 0.5% for the DAX after we all saw all that selling in yesterday's session. We'll be back in 2.
CNBC. Live ambitiously.
From leaders of business, policy and startups, to leading-edge technology, this is the place to turn ambition and ideas into action and progress. Experience the world's largest connectivity event.
The İşbank Museum of Painting and Sculpture was established a year ago. It's a panorama of Turkish painting and sculpture history. Our exhibition guides visitors through the development of Turkish art, from the early Republican period to contemporary works. It tells stories of a shared past, from grandeur of empires to the intimacy of village life. Turkey is unique in its geography, and that reflects in its art. We were part of the Silk Road, so we have influences from the east and the west. The museum is built on the foundation of İşbank's carefully curated art collection. We aim to make